Did you slap Will Smith?
One of my SAG-AFTRA friends had messaged me. They sent me a screenshot and they were like, hey, this is you. I hope you sue. And then I took a closer look and I was like, oh my God, that's me.
So you were essentially deep-faked and put into one of his videos.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Heather Ashley Boyer is here. Welcome to the show. Actor, producer, SAG-AFTRA local board member. Our union's go-to AI regulations guru. I got to warn you, I've been studying up for this conversation here. Just boning up on the AI stuff. Rían and I, we casually talk about the news that's going on with AI, but you actually know what you're talking about. Like, you are actually out there trying to get regulations and doing all that, making all that happen. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'm excited to get into this.
I like to say that we're fighting the good fight comfortably in our homes.
Yes.
But yeah, let's start off with this. We've gotten to know each other through the strike. What do we need to know about your childhood years that might give us context on what you're doing now and who you are now?
That's a great question. So I'm from Philadelphia originally.
Oh, I had a feeling. Go Birds.
Really? Yes.
That's another reason why I knew I liked you, because I was pretty sure that you're from Philly, but I'm from South Jersey and Philly.
No way. Oh my God. Very small world. Awesome. Well, yes, I was a big Phillies fan growing up, big Eagles fan. Nice. But yeah, I did a lot of acting, theater, ballet, dance, all that stuff growing up. And I think I always saw for myself these two paths of either theater, dance, Hollywood, performing arts, and or more like UN-based, diplomacy, government affairs, maybe working in the city mayor's office or whatever. So my major, so my major in college.
Did that come from anywhere? Was anyone in your family involved in politics, or anybody, was that an influence?
That's a great. My uncle is a judge. It's like something that my family talks about. I think my family has always been big on making a positive impact on the world, aiming big.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think some of it was also just that I'm extremely ambitious in various ways. And so I think I was like, I really want to, use my life for something positive. And I feel like the obvious things that you think of when you think of that, it's like, government work, entertainment work, humanitarian work. Some of my biggest role models have been, Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, who's also from Philly. And so I think that I really wanted to model myself after them. I think that they were like UN ambassadors from Hollywood. And so that's kind of the role that I sort of wanted to follow in life.
That's really interesting. It's really interesting that you latched onto them as well. I mean, you like older sort of icons of Hollywood.
Yes.
Did you do Model United Nations?
I did.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Really? No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Very cool.
Wait, you grew up in Ireland though. You have Model UN in Ireland?
Yeah, because it's not just America, E-Kan. It's the world. It's the United Nations.
Whoa! I just thought that was like a club that they started in high school. I didn't realize all across the world they had that club. Okay, so that's amazing that you had those aspirations growing up. So in college, you were saying your major and
yeah. So I started out. I think my major was initially political science. I took a couple intro courses, and I was like a little disillusioned about it. I was like, this isn't exciting me in the way that it should. And so I pivoted, and I was like, okay, maybe something that is more hands-on, more like people, impacting people, interacting with people in the community. So I ended up, my major was urban planning. I think it was technically city and regional planning. Yeah. And I actually spent like a semester in New York City at Columbia, where I literally got to go into the community and interact with folks who had just immigrated to the US and kind of hear, it was like ethnographic studies, so I got to, really do some profiles on people and learn about them. And I feel like that's part of what actors are all about. It's like learning about people, curiosity about people. And I think that, so there's that overlap in that sort of way.
That's really interesting, because I think you're absolutely right about the parallel between acting and learning about people. I also studied politics in university, and you're right, it is quite theoretical. You're right, and I didn't have the aptitude or the interest in it that I think that you do, based on what you just said. But I love that you were like, you know what? No, it needs to be more hands-on. It needs to be more practical. That's really that's a lot of focus. And were you acting alongside this?
So I'm trying to think. I took a couple acting courses in college, but I think during that phase, I was honestly still sort of trying to sort things out in my own head. I had pressure from parents and stuff. I think every actor, unless, they're born into the industry, sort of has to figure out
100%.
that, that part of it where they're like, oh my God, all these people are discouraging me or telling me no, or, so I think I was in that phase while I was in college. I think college is very much an exploratory phase for most folks in various ways. And I think for me, it was all about, finding myself. And I think maybe in my senior year, somewhere along the way, I realized, I was like, okay, urban planning is great, but I also don't want to do this as a career either. So, so I think that's when I sort of realized, okay, professionally, I think I don't really want to be just an urban planner in the mayor's office or whatever and advising the mayor, even though that's an awesome job. I think I felt called to do other stuff. And right after college, I think it was during COVID. COVID was a weird time, just in general. But but I think I did some work with the Red Cross. I tried to get involved humanitarian wise, with kind of thinking about emergency management. So I think I do tend to also be drawn towards crises and wanting to have an impact in the moment of a crisis and being okay, how do I help with some of this? And even now I'm considering maybe getting certified as an EMT or something, just to have it in my back pocket in case I need to help somebody.
That's amazing.
Do you feel bad about yourself, E-Kan, yet, or is it just me?
Well, it's funny that you're saying, let's talk about this whole exploratory college thing. You're 100% right. That is exactly what college should be, but most people aren't. Yeah. And they're basically I'm just trying to get by or just get a degree where I can get a job afterwards.
Yes.
The fact that you allowed yourself to explore, that's so, that has so much wisdom and foresight, because that's what you hope. And then also you didn't feel the need I need to go into a profession that I just spent 4 years studying and getting a degree from.
Yeah.
So that's also a hard decision. Definitely. Personally, for me, actually, Heather, Ashley, you wouldn't know this. So I actually was an econ major.
Really?
So I actually went to school for econ. My name's E-Kan.
I was going to say.
And then right after that, I know. And then right after that, I ditched it, and then I became an actor, and I moved out to LA. So mine was more dramatic. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Mine was more dramatic, but yours, I'm sure, was more sensible. Was there major pressure, or you kind of just, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to explore right now?
There was definitely pressure. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. At one point, I think during college, the plan was that, perhaps I would go to law school afterwards. And so it didn't really matter what my major was going to be, because there's no pre-law major. I went to Cornell. Right. So, as long as you just,
you went to Cornell.
Yes. So as long as you, have a good GPA, et cetera, be involved, there's various factors for a law school application. But so I think I was considering going down that path, and I think I just wasn't really sure of myself at the time. I do want to be involved politically, but do I want to go to law school right now? No. Is it out of the question forever? No. And then technology is also another kind of interest of mine as well, science and technology and kind of future facing technologies. And that has also always kind of been present in my life, dating back to, high school, elementary school, where, I've been curious about the future of medicine and, exploratory cancer treatments and stuff like that. And
wow.
And then AI came into the picture, so yeah. All related.
Well, it's like you were saying during the pandemic, I feel like one of the things from the pandemic and then, George Floyd and then obviously what happened to our industry, a lot of people were looking for a worthy cause to fight for.
Yeah.
And just kind of what you're sharing, this interest in legal background, this interest in technology. Here you are fighting for a lot of rights for actors. In a way, this is almost like a perfect intersection of all these interests that you had and you were growing up with.
Totally. It was really wild. And the way you described it is perfect. It was unexpected. And again, I've always sort of wanted to follow the path of someone like, Grace Kelly or Audrey Hepburn or, the modern day equivalents of that. But yeah, I think in my mind, I was always
no pressure. No pressure. That's a pretty good bar, right?
No pressure. But I feel like in life, I tend to be like, go big or go home. Like, and I tend to be all in, awesome. Diving off the deep end, or so I like to think. But yeah, so I think I had in my mind like, oh, I have to have like major success in acting in Hollywood and, have a big platform like a Joseph Gordon-Levitt, before I can speak out on any of these things and have that positive impact in the world that I want to have. And, I quickly realized, like, trial under fire during the pickets, like on the picket line, reporters were like there and asking questions. And so, yeah, I was like, well, I should say something. And it kind of kicked off this ripple effect.
That's a great place to start. So, yeah, so 2023, because I know that you were at the town hall, you had a lot of, very poignant and very important questions that were being asked because it was new to all of us. Mm-hmm. So is that really the inception point of you just kind of speaking out about these issues? That was kind of the beginning of it in 2023?
Yeah, in 2023, that was kind of the first time that I was really publicly speaking out about it. I found out about like the future of where AI was headed in like 2020 during COVID. Because I was, we all had free time on our hands and I was like, okay, well, I was like, what's the next thing on the horizon? Like where is the world headed, And so that's when I stumbled across, I think it was like a YouTube video that was talking about, AI and that there could be like really advanced AI down the road. And I was like, whoa, this is pretty heady stuff. And I talked to a few people about it, and they were like, oh, that sounds crazy. You sound crazy. Don't tell people that you know that, And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess I shouldn't say anything. And so I kind of shut up about it.
Conspiracy theories.
Yes, that was the feedback that I was getting. And I was like, okay. But I feel like sometimes people who are early to stuff, that is often what they're met with, where they're like, suppressed or shut down. They're like, discouraged about it. And so, but, I quietly kept learning about it and wasn't speaking out about it until I guess it was 2022 with ChatGPT coming out. And so I started talking about it with people in, my circles. I'm part of this organization called Pacific Council on International Policy. And it came up in meetings that we were having. And I started speaking about it there with fellow committee or council members. And then, once the pickets or the strike started, I think it was even during the WGA strike, like it wasn't even, SAG hadn't started striking yet. And I was like out on the picket lines and being like, this is like good. And I think we need to pay attention to this because this could ultimately replace, and every industry is at risk, really.
Yeah. Can I ask, when you started exploring this during the pandemic and you start, like from that first YouTube video, say, when it talks about where it could go or, AGI or whatever that is, what were your initial feelings on it? Were you looking at it as something that could be very positive, or were you looking at the dangers of it, or was it a more holistic view of both?
That's a great question. So I think that I come to this from a perspective of like wanting to be an early adopter, wanting to explore cool technology. But I think that when I watched the video, I was like, oh, this is like a different territory here. So, existential questions did come up. That was what like the video was, part of what was being discussed. And the idea that artificial intelligence, or formerly known as machine learning, isn't just a new technology. It's like a dual use technology almost, where it's also potentially creating like a new species or something like that, which again sounded really controversial to say like 6 years ago, but now, this is much more mainstream suddenly.
Absolutely. And has your opinion on it changed over time, the more you've learned?
I think that not a lot. I have a bunch of like books sitting on the other side of the camera that are like all about AI and some on Hollywood, but yeah, a lot on AI. So I've been voraciously consuming information over the last like 6 years, and wanting to find something that disproves that, like that gives us reason for hope. But I think that the more I've learned, the more I've become concerned, based on what like experts are saying, and also based on what like the tech CEOs are saying and the investors are saying, and understanding the lay of the land of why OpenAI, Anthropic has gotten so much money, and what that money is going to be used for. Really understanding like the big picture has actually made me more concerned.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I have had, and especially lately, just such a visceral reaction towards AI where I have this, like, I can't even engage with it. I don't know what it is about it. I think we were talking about it on the podcast before, and I think it's like the antithesis of creativity, where it's just aggregative, and I don't know. It gives me a terrible feeling. But I don't know as much as you. I'm not as well versed in it. I love that you're talking about the big picture and delving into all these different aspects and the reasons behind it and where it's going. So to hear you be concerned is quite almost reassuring,
I was about to say her getting more worried is making me more worried, but I'm glad that you're getting reassured, Rían.
Yeah. Oh no.
Well, reassured that my instinct that I'm not just like keeping it at arm's length.
Yeah, that you're not crazy. Yeah.
Stubbornness or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, even though it's something to be, on alert about, I think, like, it's not the end of the world yet. I think that there are things that we can all do to still have an influence and be engaged in all of that. So I think that there are reasons for hope, and I do try to, lean into that in terms of actions that I take. So I try to be very pragmatic about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So 2023, let's just kind of dive into a little more specifics. For actors, this is actors in Hollywood, whether you're SAG or not, these are all major concerns. So kind of like what Rían was saying, as the 3 years kind of went on, the questions you had in 2023 were really pressing. Let's kind of just give a summary of how your opinions have changed since then. Let's say specifically the contract that we had in 2023, synthetic performers, now it's just synthetics. The use of the terms digital replicas, these are all new. So how worried were you in 2023, and kind of just catch us up to right now?
Yeah. So in 2023, I was pretty shocked that we didn't get more protections on synthetic performers at the time. And especially when comparing it to what the other guilds got, what the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild, I dug into their contracts and I was like, wait, they basically got the protection that, a writer can't be replaced by AI, a director can't be replaced by AI. Yes, they can be, AI can be used as a tool, as it should be, in my opinion. But I felt like shockingly actors didn't get that basic protection. And I was like really upset and confused about that. I think that in the beginning of the strike, I had Fran and, Duncan and everyone who was involved in all of that. I had them on the biggest pedestal ever. I was like, wow, they're awesome. I'm number one fan. And then it kind of took like a dramatic shift, unfortunately, during the fall. And I was like, I remember the moment where I realized like, oh, this isn't what I thought. And I was just really sad. I'm like getting sad thinking about it now. But, I think we all had so much trust. And then we were like, wait, why is this the outcome? And, so I definitely did speak out on it. I tried to be respectful of, the work that they did. But yeah, I felt really frustrated. And I tried to channel that energy into maintaining my same messaging, but for a different audience. So that, like, literally the night that the contract was ratified, I was like, well, dang it. And then I pivoted to like, you know, trying to affect change through legislative efforts on the state and federal level. Wow. And that's kind of what I've been working on ever since I got involved.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, and I also got involved in more of in union leadership myself, which I think is a really great path. If anyone is feeling like I felt, which is, you know, frustrated and like confused, I do encourage people to try to explore union involvement in service, you know. But yeah, I started getting, what a great
example of a lot of us were disappointed, but for you to actually channel that, just, this is for the audience. The beauty of all the stuff that you're doing is a lot of the California bills in particular, that's outside of the union.
Yeah.
Out of the things that we get in our contract are specifically for SAG-AFTRA members in certain projects, very Hollywood focused. But in a way, if these California bills get passed, then that protects a whole larger group of people.
Exactly.
So, you know, just to give people an idea of that scope.
Has that been a very different process for you? Has it, from the union stuff, like where do you start with state and federal legislation?
Where did I start? There were some things kind of happening simultaneously, as E-Kan was saying. So I did get more involved in union leadership. Eric Pasoja brought me into the New Technology Committee for SAG-AFTRA, and then I ended up also becoming a member of the LA GAP Committee, which is Government and Public Policy. And so within that, I went up to Sacramento. Sean Astin, who I had just met, and Eric Pasoja went up and testified. And it wasn't just actors. It was like, you know, truck drivers, nurses, like lots of people who were being impacted by AI. And so I went up with them and, you know, we got to meet some of the lawmakers and stuff like that. So the GAP committee kind of did allow me like a natural way into some of these relationships with lawmakers and offices. But I also was kind of carving out an entirely new group of people that I started to get to know in, I guess, what's called the AI safety community, which includes like academics, activists, you know, tech folks, policymakers. My circle definitely broadened.
That's kind of the path that was before you getting elected to LA Local Board.
Yes. And
so that's great. That makes perfect sense.
Yes. But it did indirectly, I think, lead me to do that, where I was like, okay, how do I have an even more, you know, significant voice on some of this? How do I be even louder? And, you know, let's see what happens if I run for the LA Local Board. And I really ran on a platform of everything that I've just described, that like, hey, I want to make change, positive change for actors and for everybody on AI. And these are the things that I've been doing, and this is what I want to do.
Congratulations on that. By the way, if you're not in LA, obviously we're the largest SAG-AFTRA branch, but it's not easy to get elected to local board. I mean, you got a lot of actors, a lot of ambitious actors getting their names on ballots. You got to, campaign essentially. So congratulations on that, because that's already a huge accomplishment being elected.
Thank you.
Can you kind of talk about that experience when you go up to Sacramento for the first time? What's that experience like? But also, how did that kind of define your focus that this is where the action happens?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of it was fact-finding, and I've had so many meetings now with people kind of trying to guide me on that as to like which offices to meet with, which ones have more power than others on certain issues, which committees are important to connect with. It can be a bit overwhelming, I'll be honest, basically trying to understand the lay of the land, and then also understanding the political reality of where they are in their sessions, like in the calendar year for Congress, and, what things can get passed. What about lobbying money? Navigating all of this. So it's navigating all those challenges, but then there's also the added component of, you got to know what the challenges are and the roadblocks, but then you also have to just, go for the thing and maybe even like mobilize people to come with you and just really go full force and hope for the best.
Yeah. You got to know the rules of the game before you play the game.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
can you explain to a beginner how the process works? Like you're essentially trying to get a bill passed, like say, protecting a copyright of a performer, not to be taken advantage of AI. I'm just using that as like a common example that's happening right now. Like, can you kind of walk through the steps of how that gets accomplished up there?
Yes. So, and again, I've been doing work in Sacramento and also a lot recently in DC.
Yeah, I want to get into that.
Yes. But yeah, so I feel like there's like multiple different strategies that I'm sort of using all at the same time, which is not a great answer, but it's the truth. So there's a bill right now. It's called the No Fakes Act, and SAG-AFTRA actually, I believe, is maybe like I think that they are sponsoring it, or I don't know if that's the correct term, but basically SAG-AFTRA is like extremely supportive of the No Fakes Act. They have been having, I think Lisa Ann Walter, Julie Fisher, a lot of folks who are quite high up in leadership have actually gone to DC and met with congressional offices and really tried to move the needle specifically on that bill.
And just so we know, yes. I believe that's protecting Americans from unauthorized AI-generated digital replicas of voice and likeness?
Yes.
Is that the general rule?
Yes. It's creating a federal right of publicity, which basically means like that someone's likeness, their voice, whatever it is, their image can't be misused for commercial gain without the person's express permission.
And that's amazing because this is on a federal level.
Yes.
And meanwhile, we're fighting over things in our SAG-AFTRA contract, let alone California. And then you think bigger, and then pray and hope that we could actually get all of our country protected.
Exactly.
But yeah,
exactly, yeah, because it's thorny. It's like it's not just confined to Hollywood. And a lot of this, even with digital likeness protection, everyone needs protection like that.
Politicians, government, etc.
Exactly.
Can I ask, Heather, is there a model for this type of bill? Has this happened in any other country? Has it been passed in any other country, or is this a kind of are you spearheading this type of bill?
So actually, I believe that there is a bill already like this in law in California. So California is already protected. But if you're in New York and you're an actor, you're not protected, apparently. I definitely know California has this. And I believe it's been used in other court cases. I know like Bette Midler had a court case where her likeness was being used without her permission. I know Scarlett Johansson's voice was used without her permission. Right. So yeah, and they won, I believe, in both of those cases. So
yeah, they did. Yeah, that was actually the first thing we ever talked about, I think, on the podcast, was Scarlett Johansson's voice. Yeah,
her voice was used for OpenAI. Mm-hmm. So I do want to hear about your United Nations trip. Now, here's the thing: I wasn't joking around that I haven't said the word United Nations in a long time, or Model UN in a long time. So I'm picturing a lot of serious people in suits, like out of Dr. Strangelove. Maybe there's a big red button that explodes stuff. I don't know what exactly was that experience like, and then what did you guys what were you there for? And by the way, you just got back home last night.
Yeah.
Thank you again for making it on here. So how was that trip?
It was awesome. I did not see a big red button. I don't know if it's there, but yeah, thank God. But yeah, no, it was incredible. I was there for a few different reasons, actually. There was a screening of the AI doc, actually.
Oh, you watch it over there?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I've seen it like 3 times now. So every time I find something different with it, and I'm like, wow, that's a really great point.
For just so the audience, because this is a new movie, the AI doc, or How I Became an Apocalyptimist, which I did get to see it. It's streaming on Peacock right now. It's a great AI documentary, a lot of big names in the tech world, and it's probably not what you're going to expect. Like, if you're tired of AI, it does pose really deep, important questions in a fresh way, and mostly, how can someone stay optimistic in this day and age? So
yes. Yeah, I highly recommend that anybody who's watching this go out and watch that. Yeah, and I think it's very, it doesn't really take one side versus the other. I think it really takes the time to explore both sides of, where people stand on AI. But yeah, so there was a screening of the AI doc right next to the UN, hosted by the Spanish mission to the UN. And so that's what, all the different countries who have a presence at the UN, they're all called it's like the US mission to the UN, the Spanish mission to the UN. And so, yeah, so that was really cool. I got to chat with some folks afterwards. They had like a Q&A, and then there was like a cocktail, reception afterwards in like a little courtyard. And so that was really cool. I got to really speak with some of the actual diplomats and hear their thoughts. And it seemed like the movie really sparked this discussion around AI. And I was really encouraged because I was like, wow, this is like a real world example of the positive impacts that entertainment and movie making can have on the world. And I feel like sometimes, at least in the modern era, people can kind of be a little dismissive of Hollywood or celebrities or whatever. Yeah. But I literally saw like the real world impact that had on, people and potentially policy. So I think that that's super inspiring.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, so I was there for that. And then I also got to meet the UN spokesperson, wildly enough, which was incredibly cool. I definitely didn't have this on my bingo card for happening in 2026. And it kind of came together pretty fast. I basically said like, hey, I'm going to be up here for this screening. I would love to meet up with you. And I had like a soft intro from one of the former US ambassadors to the UN. So I think that may have helped build my legitimacy. I wasn't just some random person.
Man, talk about rubbing elbows with people in high places. Okay, that's one way to do it. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it was really cool. We got to, I got to go to his office. I got to meet like some of his staff. And he's been at the UN for like 14 years, I think now, or a really long time, maybe since I think it's been longer than that. I think it's almost like 30 years that he's been at the UN. Yeah, it was really wild. And it turned out he used to be in entertainment himself. There's all these overlaps. And I feel like it's so inspiring to me because I've always felt like I want that in my life. And I'm now starting to connect with people and meet with people who also have that overlap in their lives. So he said he used to be a producer for ABC back in the day. And then, and ultimately he ended up there. But yeah, we got to chat about a bunch of different things. We chatted about Hollywood, what the UN is currently working on. We talked a little bit about AI, mostly like me sharing like the stuff I've been doing, trying to advocate for policies. And then he gave me like a tour of the UN afterwards, which was really
heard about that.
Wild. Yeah. And so his job, he's the spokesperson for the Secretary General of the UN. And the Secretary General is basically like the head guy. He gets elected every 5 years, I believe. And so there's going to be a new election in January, there's going to be a new person in January who's like the head person. But this guy is like the guy that stays on past every new Secretary General. He's the constant. Position. Yeah, definitely. And so he gave me a tour of all of these different chambers of the UN. I had no idea. I thought it was just like the General Assembly main chamber. And I'd been to that before from being in Model UN in like a long time ago. But there were all of these many different chambers. We got to visit the Security Council where the Security Council meets. And he said that there was going to be a meeting in just a few hours about, I believe it was like the Ukraine and Russia war, where they were going to be discussing that. And I was like, whoa, this is heady stuff.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I can't even imagine these conversations.
I just imagine them turning around and going, how did she get in here? Did lock the door?
No, for real. I know. Me too. It was really inspiring. Yeah. It was super cool, super inspiring. And people were coming up to him and being like, shaking his hand and catching up with him. And so everyone he was very recognizable amongst all of the diplomats that were there in the building. Really awesome. And he was so welcoming and genuine. And, but yeah, hopefully, who knows where life takes us all, but
you were saying a lot of people underestimate the power of Hollywood and entertainment, but obviously with, who happens to be president right now, there's a lot of overlap with politics in Hollywood for better or for worse. And these skills that we have as storytellers and communicators, a lot of good and a lot of power can come out of that.
Exactly.
So that's great. That probably gets us. So let's get back to the union. We kind of took a little segue off of the SAG deal, but this is a good time to go back to the SAG deal. A couple points in the contract right now in 2026. There was new language on synthetic performers, digital replicas. If they were going to digitally alter or use a digital replica, it needs to be aligned with a script that was previously provided. Mm-hmm. That was not in 2023. That's a really inside baseball one for actors, but I thought it was important because, hey, this isn't just, hey, I don't like his expression and I don't know what he said over there. Let's just give him a different line and we'll just use his digital replica to say that. Like, I feel like it streamlined things from 2023 a little bit. What's your first take on it?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's a really great point about the scripting for digital replicas. I think that overall, the sections on AI, digital replicas, and on synthetics, I think that it did tighten it more in an actually meaningful way. So I do feel encouraged by that. I personally am still undecided on how I'm voting this time around, which is interesting because I think I felt very certain last time about, that I clearly didn't feel great about it. I've been attending like all of the Zoom info sessions. I'm also like in some group chats and I'm like, okay, like this is the language, but then what's the enforceability of some of this? Like, what's the legality? Like, why is the wording this way? Why does it say that? I was going to say, I also read the MOA that I didn't read the whole 145 pages yet, but
I know they just released all the full document.
Yeah, but I was in a Zoom meeting when it came out with Duncan and everyone who was, taking questions on it, and I scrolled down to the AI section on synthetics, and I was like, wait, this is different than what was in the summary. Why is this language? Why does this say that? And specifically, it said, well, actors, the union is going to bargain. If the synthetic is created, the union is going to bargain with the studios, and it will be determined, if any money will be owed to the union for the use of a synthetic. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like,
that's very different than how they were describing it.
Exactly.
That's very different.
Exactly. In the summary, it was like all this stuff about arbitration and that, damages will be provided, compensated to the union if a synthetic is used or if rules are broken. I was like, wow, that sounds great. Actual protections this time. But then I saw this and I was like, wait, what? And the arbitration part was still part of this, but this is like an additional wording, whereas it was just glossed over in the summary.
When I heard them describe that in the info meeting, I actually felt better. The studio needed to argue or negotiate the fact that significant value was added using a synthetic performer, that they would have to argue. It's a higher barrier, but you dug into the language and it got murky and that's not great.
I know.
That's not great.
It's not. And I pointed that out at the info session and Duncan was like, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
So what'd they say?
Duncan was like, Heather Ashley, you know a lot about this and you're right. And you would find stuff like that. So I was like, wow, that's nice that, he's saying that. Right. But so I wasn't overly reassured by that. I was like, tell me I'm wrong. Just tell me I'm wrong. Like, I would love that. Yeah, because I was asking, I was like, hey, is this just like a legality? Like, does it have to say that just for legal purposes? Or, I'm not a lawyer, clearly. Like, is it something I just don't know? And he was like, no, technically you're right. Like, but it sounded like extremely unlikely that would happen.
Right.
And for me, it's frustrating because I'm like, well, why is it just not more clear cut, in this language? Yeah. Like, I love the sentiment of all of it. And I think it's way better this time around on the AI than it was last time. But it's like that last, like, mile that it's like, dang.
Right, because surely likelihood shouldn't really come into it. There should be protective language regardless of.
Right.
I mean, it's not like it's to eliminate the risk, not to kind of minimize and go, well, it probably won't happen, so we'll just leave the door open a little bit.
Right. And that's where I felt that some of the language like was a bit flimsy. I liked the principle of, some of the principles that were included in there about like that the studios agree to a principle of using, human performers and all of that. And so, but even that, I was like, okay, like, what is the legality? What's the enforceability around something like that? And so I've been asking basically the same questions like countless times over the last number of weeks, and I've been frustrated. And I'm like embarrassed because I'm like, I'm still not getting it here. So, but because I think we've been getting a lot of the same stock answers for some of these questions from leadership. And but my sense is that some of it may ultimately, it seems like the plan is that it would ultimately end up in arbitration to be sorted out for some of this. And again, that's not ideal to have in a contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we'll figure it out later, But again, I don't think it's the.
And exactly, we're not Scarlett Johansson, who has the power of lawyers and a whole team to protect us. So it's the never-ending spiral of those who can afford it can, but.
But it's interesting. I mean, even Duncan's response, like, "Oh, Heather Ashley, you would find that." Well, that's. I mean, you know a lot about this stuff. So if you're not getting satisfactory answers, that's quite illuminating on how ill-defined that is in some ways.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure why. It's like, I think that if members were given more like clear-cut information up front, because I think initially a lot of people were really put off by the language around like significant additional value. They're like, what does that mean? And myself, I was like, well, significant additional value, like basically leadership was saying, well, that means that the synthetic has to be able to do something that a human can't do or a digital replica can't do. And I was like, okay, well, what about like a significant cost savings from a synthetic? But I guess, so I guess they're saying, well, a digital replica, like you'd have similar cost savings, and I don't know. And they have this principle that they have to commit to about prioritizing humans. So it's kind of like a patchwork of new rules that I think that leadership does feel confident that will protect us. And I want to believe that. And perhaps I do believe that now, but it's definitely taken a long time, I think, for me to come around to that. Because it was unclear.
And one little tidbit, just so people know, because this particular one rule about digital replica used to dub a performance into another language, people who have careers dubbing foreign languages for other programs, that rule got reversed in this contract. So I just want to give them their kudos, because some of these rules actually can get reversed. And so I just want to encourage, I'm encouraging Heather Ashley because she's doing all the work, pushing them. But, when it comes down to it, these things can progress, even though it might be slow and frustrating. Sometimes these rules will eventually streamline into something better years in contract later. So they did get that. They also got strike protection. They can't use a digital replica during strike, which is obviously makes perfect sense. So thank God we got that in there, and so on. But I can imagine it's slow and frustrating, but you know a lot more, so it's slow and frustrating for you as well,
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, like, when you're chatting to other members, I mean, is there a level of understanding in this? Is there a level of interest in this from, like, the rank and file members? Do you think people are well informed about it, or just maybe not engaged in it? I mean, where do you find that most people fall in just people you chat to about this?
That's a great question. I think my data may be a little bit biased because I'm not talking to all of the 180,000 or however many members we have.
I mean, that seems like a shortcoming on your part. I mean, that seems like that's
I know.
problem.
Why is this happening?
I know, exactly. You're too busy hanging out at the UN, hanging out with fancy people. Don't forget us little people.
Gotta hit the phone.
We're here too.
Definitely. But I will say, I would love to meet everybody. But yes, I have been chatting with a lot of people. I think that most people in my circle are definitely leaning towards voting no.
Your feelings on AI, you were kind of saying how the more you learned about it, the more you're kind of becoming more concerned. Where are you on the AI spectrum as far as there are some people out there saying and still fighting for AI shouldn't be allowed at all under any circumstances. And then the other side of the spectrum is we need to learn how to use it, grow with it, adapt. I mean, you have celebrities speaking out right now, Sandra Bullock, Reese Witherspoon, talking about, hey, we need to learn how to use this. And you know, it's our friend. And, you know, and I don't want to judge them, but you have Matthew McConaughey licensing his voice and so on and so forth. Ben Affleck has an AI company. So where are you in that spectrum now?
Yeah, I have to say the celebrities speaking out about it or like having a financial stake in it and all of that, like Matthew McConaughey, like it's really frustrating to see and really disappointing because I think that the way in which it's being done is throwing other actors and creatives and other people under the bus. So that's really disappointing. I think what Reese Witherspoon said, as much as I love her as an actor, you know, Elle Woods, iconic, you know, so I try to separate my adoration for her in that way from like my feelings about her on AI. And yeah, I was like really disappointed that she was like, oh, women need to lean into this and basically pressuring women about I'm like, what? Like, you're not like, clearly I think she perhaps has like a financial stake. That's not me saying that. That's what other people online were saying, you know? So.
I know. So for those that don't know the video, because it did come on my radar, Rían, I don't know if you saw this video. It was
not received well by anybody I know.
She's like mixing something in the kitchen. She goes, you know what? At my book club, there's 10 women. Guess how many don't use AI? 7. And this is just, and I was like, you're using your little book club to extrapolate the use and knowledge of women across the world. Yeah. I think you're kind of, anyway, needless to say, her point was kind of lost on the internet.
The 3 who do use it don't even have to read the books. They just get an AI summary. It's perfect.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. That's a good point.
It basically minimized the reasons why people are opting to not use AI or to not fully adopt it in the way that she wants people to use it in. You know, so I think that's also problematic. She's basically strong-arming people into it, and I'm like, that's not cool. Even if it's the world's greatest thing, don't strong-arm people into something. So I think that, like most things in life, like I think that there should be a balance. I think it's great to be used as a tool. Like I use AI, you know, from time to time. I'm not like anti-AI, although I'm sure that most people would assume that I'm anti-AI. It's ironic because, like I said, like I tend to think of myself as like an early adopter to technology. And so that's actually, you know, because I was curious about AI initially, or the future of technology, that's how I got into this early. I'm not like, you know, a Luddite, quote unquote. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And I think someone was saying, like, we should reclaim the term Luddite. I used to have, you know, what is it? Clear at the airport, the retina scanner when it first came out. Yeah. And then I was like, wait, I don't think I should have this. And so I
didn't even know about that. That's pretty cool.
Like, do you want to save 5 minutes? Give us 2 pints of blood. Off you go.
Right.
I'm with you on that. Do you know, there's a thing I saw online. I've tested it a number of times since, and every time the result is the same. I saw someone asking AI to spell how many S's in the word success, or it was a word with like 3 S's. And it kept getting the answer. And I've done this a few times. I'm like, and it'll get the answer wrong in a different way every time if you challenge it. It's like, there are 2 S's in the word success. And you're like, no, there clearly are 3. You're right. There are 3 S's, 2 in the middle and 1 at the end. And you're like, no, that's wrong. And then it'll go back to 2, and it's just wrong in a different way, but it changes its wrong answer based on your reaction to it. And on that little example alone, it just shattered any faith that I had or any trust I had in AI. If it can be so wrong about something so devastatingly simple, how can we trust it with anything
right
else, you know?
Well, that's kind of another thing. That's a really good point, the whole how can we trust an AI. I feel like I deal with AI in different ways. Like, obviously digital likeness, trying to protect that, trying to get laws around that. My original thing that I became kind of engaged on AI about was really like the existential questions of, is this going to, end all humanity ultimately? Or like, where is the future of this? And so I've recently, tried to dig into some of the science behind some of this. And the way that the researchers describe AI is like a black box, basically. They're like, we see the output, but we don't understand why it does the thing. Like, we don't understand what it's thinking entirely. There's something called chain of thought, or COT, where they can see the readout of what the AI is.
Did you say chain of thought? I just missed the first chain of thought you said.
Yes, it's like a stream of consciousness where if it's answering your question, and these are called reasoning models. They've tried what's called alignment research, which is to or mechanistic interpretability, which is basically trying to understand and get into the AI and be like, okay, how does this thing work exactly? And people describe the AI systems as more so grown and not programmed. So there's this like mysterious component to AI research that is very different than other forms of technology in the past. And so in doing research recently, folks have found that there's a lot of like scheming that can be going on in models. It's like the more intelligent the model is, oftentimes the more scheming it tends to exhibit.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole for when we go to that. I just saw. I was gonna throw this out there because it's a really feel good. I'm being sarcastic, but they did models simulations on each AI model. You have Claude as one of them. You have, I believe, the other, Anthropic or OpenAI, whatever. And you basically had the simulation of what would it be like if all of these quote unquote people in this environment was just on that model. And sure enough, one of those models, they literally died in 5 days. They literally, it's just chaos. All those independent brains and, like independent quote unquote individuals literally died, didn't survive. The longest, most civil one was Claude, not surprisingly. That one survived a little bit, but they also explained that Claude, quote unquote, knows that when they're being tested. So Claude knows when they're being tested, and they even have awareness of that. This is what we, obviously, I mean, you know better than I, but I think it's kind of like what we're talking about. We have no idea how this works. So Claude might have survived longer because they knew that they were being tested. Anyway, I know that this is all very cheery stuff.
No, you're right. You're spot on. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's the stuff that like scientists are kind of stumped about. Like there's 3 godfathers of AI, and Geoffrey Hinton is one of these 3 godfathers. He's kind of like the modern day Oppenheimer, perhaps. And he like did the exact same path that Oppenheimer did. He like created, artificial intelligence in its modern form. And then he was like, oh my God, what have I created? Wait, this thing can't be controlled ultimately. Oh my God, I need to stop what I'm doing, completely change my life trajectory, and go out in the world and tell people about this thing I've created, and that we shouldn't, we need real guidelines and guardrails around this, and like basically an international treaty, handle it the way that nuclear weapons were handled in the Cold War era. So you've got highly credible people, literally the people that created this, out there saying that. So I try to be one of those voices as well. But it's, it's tricky because you always also have to meet people where they're at. And you never know if the person you're chatting with is like, where they stand on some of this. And so yeah, that's honestly a lot of what I've been doing recently is around that.
That's amazing. And to be honest, even bringing him on the radar, I actually wasn't aware of him, but that's startling. That might be the title of this episode, The Oppenheimer of AI.
Yes.
So
Heather Ashley Boyle.
Oh no!
I know exactly.
But before we do wrap, can I just ask, because I feel it would be disingenuous to not ask about this, because you also have a really great acting career, and I just wondered, like, we haven't really even touched on that, and is there a sort of push-pull in you between acting and everything else you're doing? Do you find yourself leaning more into one than the other, or are they quite harmonious in your life?
Yeah, so it's definitely, as you can imagine, it's really hard to, it's challenging to balance both just because I don't have enough time in the day, unfortunately. It's interesting. I often feel the more that I lean in one direction, the more the other thing pulls me.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. It can't hurt when you also, get to know Sean Astin and other incredible actors in our community, and kind of, these are really great role models and also mentors. So I do want to ask, and I don't know, like, was there a story about Will Smith, and are you allowed to talk about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you slap Will Smith?
No. Oh no.
No, we can't. Will Smith, and can you talk about that story? I never actually heard it from you.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. I had no idea that any of this was happening. One of my SAG-AFTRA friends had messaged me, I think it was like last August, and they sent me a screenshot. And they were like, "Hey, this is you. I hope you sue." And I was like, "Oh, ha, 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 funny. Yeah, right." And then I took a closer look, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's me." And I actually know exactly what photo was used, like scraped from Instagram, and it wasn't even from my Instagram account. It was like a photo I was tagged in on a friend's Instagram account.
So you were essentially deep faked and put into one of his videos.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
really crazy.
This is exactly.
This is
I needed
insane.
to hear this story because you essentially
Yes.
got deep faked by Will Smith, and they had no idea who they were
Yeah.
messing with. That they just
Right.
happened to deep fake you. But
But they scraped it off Instagram?
And I, to be honest, like I have no idea if there was any, intention behind what was done. I can't imagine that Will Smith personally was like, let's put Heather Ashley Boyer, AI, spokesperson, like in this video.
This'll show her.
exactly. Will Smith is against any controversy.
Right. Well, that's the thing though. Like he is big. He kind of has become this touchstone for like AI video quality with the spaghetti,
That's
so
true.
that is kind of an interesting component there where, hypothetically, like, I don't know, but he did
That's
get a lot
true.
of flack in the news for using like AI crowds. And so what it was for like a music video that was on his social media, I believe. And it was like all these AI people in the crowd, and most of them were probably like actually just fake people, like not a real person. But then I was like a real person that was put in there. And I was like, wait, what? And so I'm actually wearing the exact same shirt that I was wearing in the photo.
Are you
my
serious?
Just
That's
a coincidence, yes. But I have to admit, I feel like I'm kind of like Steve Jobs, where I often sort of wear like the same thing some days. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
So I often have like a scrunchie with me and like a watch and like a black shirt or whatever and leggings. So I was literally wearing this, and I was wearing the exact same thing in the photo on Instagram. And I think I actually called up Scarlett Johansson's lawyer who won her case, because I was like, what do I do? Like I feel a bit of a responsibility to do something because, anyone could have been in that position. It could have been anyone. And, I think that I'm nervous to speak up on some level because I, would never want to, hurt myself professionally before I really get started, so there's that dynamic. But I also feel an obligation to, to help other people that, might be affected by this too. And so, basically Scarlett Johansson's lawyer was like, you definitely have a case. That's insane. That happened to you. She gave me like a little bit of advice on like different paths I could take. And then I chatted with like SAG-AFTRA, and I was like, hey, what do you guys think about this? It's pretty crazy. Could this be a good opportunity for us to like get protections for people or something? And I think that they were a little bit like more hesitant about me like pursuing something legally.
They didn't want to mess with Will Smith.
Yeah,
Not surprisingly.
I guess not. And they also made a good point, which was kind of what informed me ultimately on it, I think. But they pointed out, like, well, hey, this actually isn't under one of our contracts, I guess. It's like a music video. And I think they were saying, like, maybe the music video, like, wasn't a SAG contract or something for some reason. So it sounded murky legally on that end. And I guess SAG-AFTRA was like, well, there's not much we can do because of that. So I never really ended up doing anything, pursuing it legally. That, you know, I would get paid or whatever would probably be negligible. And I was like, okay, like whatever. It was covered in like some like news articles and stuff, like BuzzFeed picked it up. Another crazy thing that's happening with AI.
It is crazy.
Yeah. But it's interesting. You said something at the beginning there of like that idea that, oh, when I have a platform, then I will speak out. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I you know, and I also understand that feeling too. But I'm so glad that you have decided to speak out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Regardless of where your career is or platform, because I think it's so important. And I think, like from chatting to you, you have such a sense of such a balanced sense of justice and fairness and what's important. And I think that's it's a really unique thing when combined with the action that you take, you know, and the action you have taken. And I think that's really inspiring. And I think that's really important for people to hear, particularly union members, as we go into this, you know, this vote. I think that's really valuable for people. So I'm so impressed by your like depth of knowledge and your experience and your interest level in this and the reasons behind it. I think that's just fantastic. So I'm glad you to me are like you're like in A Few Good Men, you're like Jack Nicholson. We want you on that wall. We need you on that wall.
yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
I was just about to say, yeah, exactly. The way that Rían described it is perfect, but also it's like you're in leadership and you're carving out this place that needs a voice in our union, and thank God. What's the best way to see what you're up to, connect with you, anything you want to promote?
Yeah, probably the easiest way for people to get in touch with me, I'm on Instagram. I'm at Heather Ashley Boyer. I'm also part of CCAI, which is Creators Coalition on AI, and they're doing a lot of great work. I potentially might be starting a group at some point soon.
Well, pitch it here.
The group that I may be creating down the road is obviously going to be around AI and Hollywood, basically trying to get more protections around that and giving people more of a voice, and also to educate them on it. And we'll see. It's still very much in the works.
I'm in. I'm already in.
I know,
if you need a retina scan, I will give you one right now.
Oh, no.
Rían's already ready to give you a couple pints of blood here. But this is great to hear. And thanks so much for coming on and kind of sharing your stories and your insight. And it's definitely a weak spot of the community is we need clear communication. We know that. But, you know, the fact that you're in leadership and part of the board in our union makes me feel a lot better. So hidden gems.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to go first, Heather Ashley?
Sure. The hidden gem that I was going to suggest is the AI doc, or how I became an apocalyptimist.
I know, it's a tongue twister.
Yeah, definitely like a new word here. But yeah, really awesome documentary. It was produced by a bunch of producers, including Daniel Kwan. He was the Oscar-winning director.
Everywhere.
Yes. He's awesome. He's also one of the leaders of CCAI, you know, so he's one of the really prominent voices in Hollywood on specifically like big picture AI risks, I think. Like I said, I've seen it 3 times now and I'm like, felt great.
That's a great hidden gem. Rían, do you want to go or me?
Yeah, sure. I'll fire away. I don't know. Have I said this before? The Distress Signals Project is...
that's a good timing.
Yeah, so it's coming up in a couple of weeks. So basically, it's a theatre project spearheaded by Timothy Davis, who we know from Les E-Kan Studio,
and former guest.
But it's a lot of new works and they partner with charitable organisations in order to raise money for different causes, and it will be going on in Artshare LA, which is in downtown LA, and it's the weekend. It's 2 weekends, so it's the 12th to the 14th of June, and then I believe the following weekend, which is the 19th. I think it's the 19th to the 21st of June. Right. So we'll put a link Oh, and I'll be in it, by the way. I'll be.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're, and we'll put the dates that you're going to be in it. Support our boy out there. My hidden gem is by far the silliest out of all three of us, but that's okay because it's a little mix of everything. If you haven't been to the LA County Fair, it is such a good time. I basically go there to eat the craziest foods that I can possibly eat. But the most interesting was a Captain Crunch chicken sandwich. So cereal on top of this. Yeah, they got everything. They got burgers with donuts as buns. They got a mix of everything. Anyway, I had a great time. And that's my hidden gem. This is the last weekend of the LA County Fair.
LA County Fair.
Yeah. Yeah, get out there, everyone.
Get diabetes.
I, too, like to live dangerously. All right. Well, that's our show, everyone. Thank you so much, Heather Ashley.
I could have listened to that all day. It's so interesting.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
And just so you know, we did launch a Patreon. If you want to support, $5 a month. Sign up in the link in the description. There's no changes to the podcast. It's just a way to support and helps us keep the podcast running, make it even better for you. Thanks for the support, everyone.
Cheers.